there will come a time where you're not going to question your commitment. You're going to question your compatibility. And you're going to start to ask yourself, can I be in a relationship with someone who is exactly as they are and not willing to lean into life and grow? So think about it as two separate things. You should always, always, always be investing in your own growth and your own happiness, because the happier you are, the more happiness you're going to bring into your relationship. But there may come a time where you start to question whether or not you're compatible. And that's a completely different thing.
I struggle with that because that does not actually, I don't see a difference between that and compatibility. Because if you're committed to growth and development and you demonstrate that through your own actions, and you have the experience that your partner is not inspired by his or her own growth or development, and your actions are not rubbing off on that person, that points to a lack of compatibility.
Well, there's two things that may be at play. And this is why I would encourage you, if you're sitting here going, this is becoming a lack of compatibility, have you even had the conversation? Have you sat down and talked about how their lack of interest in their own growth is impacting you? And if you haven't had the conversation, you need to. And you need to come at it from how it impacts you emotionally, how it makes you feel like you're not being supported, how you may be worried about them. The second thing I want you to understand is that when a person in a relationship starts to change and grow, it is extraordinarily confronting and scary to their partner. And I want to share a personal story from our relationship that will really illustrate the reason why you have to have a conversation about what is really going on in terms of how your partner is perceiving all of your growth and change. So a couple years ago, you decided, Chris, that you were going to just stop drinking. And when you said you were going to stop drinking, which is an incredible form of personal growth, and it's a big change, positive change to make in your life, I was like, yay, you. Go be better. I love that for you. You are drinking too much. You're exactly right. And you never, ever shamed me or made a request of me to stop drinking. You chose to do that for your growth. And I think that's an important point. He wasn't doing it for me. He was doing it for himself, because adults change when they feel like changing, and they change for themselves. So fast forward a couple days, Chris is not drinking at all. And you are the least dramatic person I know. You never complained. You never had a fuss about it. You just quietly, consistently showed up for yourself. So I'd say it was about the fourth day. I'm cooking dinner, and I open up the fridge and I open up a bottle of wine, because I love cooking dinner, and I love cooking dinner with a glass of wine in my hand. And you walk in and I'm like, hey, would you like a glass of wine? And you said no. And I was like, oh, come on. It's just a glass of wine. And you're like, Mel, I'm not drinking. And then I'm like, well, it's kind of just like juice. And you didn't think that was funny. And as I tell the story, I realize I look like a complete monster and jerk, because I am now not only making a joke about what you're trying to do, I'm actively undermining the change you're trying to make. And I'll never forget this. You looked me square in the eye, Chris, and you said, do you remember what you said?
No.
You don't? This changed my life, what you said.
I got a couple of things you've said to me that have changed my life, and you probably don't even know it yourself.
That's true. That's true. I've never thought about that. But this is what you said. You said, Mel, no one cares what's in your glass but you. Stop asking me if I want to have a drink. I have told you I am not drinking. And then I think I was like, okay, well, I just feel kind of weird, like having a glass of wine alone. And you said, if you're self-conscious about what's in your glass, then you should be looking in the mirror and asking yourself why. And the point of this story is that when someone that you love changes, you in your mind understand that that's good. But as you see the person changing and growing and getting better, it forces you to take a look at your own behavior. And that is extraordinarily confronting. And I want you to understand this because your partner may want to grow, but they may be stuck in that mode where they don't feel like doing it yet. Any pressure, any shame, it is 1000% going to push them away from you. And Chris did the best thing in the world. Chris just carried on and you focused on what you wanted to change. And I'm going to tell you something. Your partner's behavior influences you. I said you cannot force someone else to change. I never said you couldn't influence them. Every time you wake up and you roll out of bed an hour and a half earlier than I do, I hear you get up and it makes me think I should do that. Every time you go and you take the dogs on a loop, I think I should do that. And that's exactly what your partner is thinking, whether they're telling you that or not. And, you know, when you said, Chris, that it is a compatibility issue, it's true. At some point, if your partner doesn't ever feel like changing, like let's say you get sober and you don't, it's just not going to work for you. It's a deal breaker to be with somebody who drinks. That's okay. Only you know if you're in a situation based on your growth and your partner's lack of growth, if you've gotten to a point where the road forks and this is a deal breaker. And here's how you can tell if it's a deal breaker, because I wrote an entire section about all this in the Let Them Theory. If the person never changes, they keep drinking, they never take care of their health, they never address the depression, they never speak to you kindly, can you continue to choose them and love them as they are? And the only way that you're going to be able to answer that question is, can you end your complaining about it? If you can't end your complaining, this is a deal breaker. And based on the research in the Let Them Theory book, deal breakers are things that make you give up on your dreams and your values. But the vast majority of stuff that people kind of are frustrated about are not deal breakers at all. They're just differences in what people prioritize in their life. Is there anything else you want to add?
I just want to speak to anybody who might be on the other side who has not embarked on some of these changes, growth choices, what have you, because I think that when you are in a relationship where somebody takes off, it's easy to sometimes conclude that, well, nothing I can do to catch up, throw my arms up. Nah, I don't need to go learn that or try this new thing, or I can't. And I would just say to those people, there is always a perfect time to make that choice, regardless of what your significant other may or may not have done.
This would be the perfect episode to send to your partner and open up this conversation. Because what I've found is that people also tend to change when they're given the space to come to their own conclusions and feel like this was their decision, not their partner's decision. And this is super important because the other thing that happens is you start to feel like there's something wrong with you, which means you're going to want to defend yourself if you feel like somebody's trying to change you. It's part of human wiring. And so just to kind of close the loop on this, it is so great that you're growing. You have to have the conversation about how your partner feels and how their lack of interest in this is making you feel. And once you have that conversation and you also affirm that you love this person and you accept them as they are and you apologize for pressuring them and you ask for what you need for support, back off. Back off. You have to give someone else the space to work through their stuff and come to their own conclusions. And you'll know when you get to the point where it's a fork in the road and you're like, I don't know if I can be with somebody who's like this. And that's when you're at the point where you're like, is this a deal breaker for me? And only you know that.